All right, this is our Algebra 1. I believe this is our 1 through 55 review, part 2. Picking it up with question number 9. These slope questions are questions that we've been struggling with ever since we started covering them. Okay? So just so that we're clear, I want to start kind of at the beginning of this. If I say the slope-intercept form of an equation, what is that? Can anybody tell me what the slope-intercept form of an equation is in just its most general terms? Like if I were to say y equals, what would you finish it off with? Mx plus b, right? Okay. What does m stand for? Rise over run or slope. Okay. Let's see. What does b refer to? Okay. Y-intercept. Where it intercepts the y-axis. Okay. So can we see where the blue line crosses the y-axis at here? Okay. Usually, especially earlier in math, they usually have that y-intercept crossed at a nice, neat spot. Where does this one cross at? -4. Very good. -4. That is -4. And that's the only number I need. Okay. If I was looking for a coordinate, that would be 0, -4, because it goes 0 to the to the left or right, but it goes 4 down. Does that make sense? All right. Whenever I read a graph, which direction do I read it from and to? I read it from left to right. Always, sometimes, always. So I'm always reading it this direction. Because oftentimes we get a question like, here's the graph of this line. Is this graph, is it positive or negative? Is this graph positive or negative? Positive, because it is going up from left to right. Now, some of us, not many of us, but some of us are missing that question, right? Because I think on a previous test you had like 4 graphs, and it wanted to know the slopes of each of those lines, positive, negative, 0, or undefined, right? Okay. Positive, negative, 0, undefined, right? Is that something we're familiar with? Right? Positive, going up from left to right. Negative, going down from left to right. 0 is horizontal. Vertical is undefined. Okay, we're clear on all those things. All right. All right, so here it wants, this just said find the slope of the line. Just find the slope of the line. So I'm going to kind of erase some stuff here. I can tell this by going from this position to this position, and I have 2 different ways of doing this. Okay? How did you guys find the slope of this line? Jose? Rise over run. Tell me about the rise. Okay, so did you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, so you went up 5, and then you went to the right 2. Okay, so you got a slope of 5 halves, right? So now here's the thing I want you to be aware of. It's just asking for the slope, right? Let's be clear here. X is not the slope. Do you hear me? X is not the slope. If you put 5 halves x, your answer will be wrong. The slope is just, sorry, I meant to circle that. The slope is just 5 halves. Do you understand? And we're not going to make that a mixed number. We're not going to say that that is, 1.5. Are we clear? So the answer here is 5 over 2. Now, go ahead. No, you wouldn't put y equals 5 over 2. You would just put 5 over 2. Or slope equals 5 over 2. Okay? Slope equals 5 over 2. You could just, so there's a couple different ways that you could write that. Let's see. I want to be clear about something else here. Okay. Give me a second. So yes, x is not part of the slope. Okay. Okay. All right, so other than just counting up or down and over, okay, I want you to know something else, okay, and that is y2 minus y1 equal over x2 minus x1, okay? So if you're going to do this, then you're going to have to borrow a sheet of graph paper and show me how you counted up and counted over. Does that make sense? That's the only way to show your work there. Now, I don't have to graph this if I know that my slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? What is, let me kind of erase some of this. Okay, can you guys see these two numbers well enough? Can you see those two sets of coordinates? Okay, this one is 4, 6, and this one is 2, 1. Okay, what is y2? 1. Okay, what is y1? Okay, what is x2? 2. What is x1? 4. Okay, what is 1 minus 6? -5. What is 2 minus 4? Okay, what happens to those two negatives? Okay, so I get 5 halves. Does that match the counting up and over? Yeah. Okay, now let me show you something else, because you notice how we got negative over negative, right? It'd be really easy to get that wrong and put -5 halves, right? Okay, so you need to be careful. Now, somebody will ask the question, because this is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What we could also say is y1 minus y2. If I did y1 minus y2, that would be 6 minus 1, right? 6 minus 1, okay, over 4 minus 2. y1 minus y2. What is 6 minus 1? Okay, what's 4 minus 2? Do I still get 5 halves? Yes. Okay, so a good way to show your work is to use the point slope formula, or the slope formula. Does that make sense? Okay, and that keeps me from having to graph it to show my work. Okay, find the x and y intercepts of -2x plus 2y equals 14. All right. Okay, so if I'm looking at a graph, let's say I have a line that looks like this. Okay, this position right here is the y-intercept. Okay, at the y-intercept, what is the x-coordinate? Always 0. Okay, so the y-intercept always has an x-coordinate of 0. Okay, let's look at, this is what we would call the x-intercept. What is the y-coordinate at the x-intercept? 0. Okay, so if I want to know what the y-intercept is, I'm going to plug 0 in for x. So I'm going to do -2 times 0 plus 2y equals 14. Okay, what's -2 times 0? 0. Okay, it leaves me with 2y equals 14. What do I do now? Divide by 2. So what is the y? Okay, so the y-intercept is 7. Do we see how to find that? Okay, now if I want to know what the x-intercept is, what do I do? Not multiply the y-intercept by 0. Plug in 0 for y. So, granted, this is being recorded. You go back and watch the video, so I'm not like flooding it over with work. But I'm going to do -2x plus 2 times what? 0 equals 14. 2 times 0 is what? 0. So I can just write -2x equals 14. Okay, divide by -2, divide by -2. So -7, 0. So if I want to know what the x-intercept is, it's -7. If I want to know what the y-intercept is, it's +7. Okay? Are we good here? Okay. Okay. 11. This wants us to simplify. How can I simplify this? Okay, Jose? Move everything to the top. Okay, so what Jose is saying is that when you move something to the top, it becomes negative. What if it was negative already? It becomes positive. So a better answer is when we move something across the division bar, the exponent and only the exponent changes signs. So from positive to negative or negative to positive. All right, so he wants to move everything up. So I'm going to write a to the 6th, but if I want to move this other a up, it becomes a to the what? -2nd. I'm going to move, I got b cubed up here, but I'm going to move the other b up. It becomes b to the -8, and I'm going to move c to the 5th up, and it becomes c to the -5th. Okay, what do I do with the exponents of the a's? Subtract them. Really, I'm combining them. We would look at it in terms of addition primarily, right? All right, so 6 plus -2 is a to the 4th. Okay, b, so I got 3 plus -8. -5, and c to the -5th. Okay, so what does this become? What do I do with those things with negative exponents? Move them back down, right? What about anything with a positive exponent? Leave it on the top. So I should keep what on top? A to the 4th, and down below I have now, b to the 5th. Okay, so this is what I want. Okay, now how do I write that in a short answer? Now this is where I want to be careful. I actually want to put a set of parentheses here because I'm dividing it by all of what's next. Okay, b caret 5, c, and you could have maybe an asterisk there to represent your multiplication. C caret 5, close parentheses. You got to have the parentheses. Let me explain why. Because if you don't have the parentheses, this is what it looks like on like a calculator. It looks like that. Okay? If you were to plug it in your calculator without the parentheses, that's what it would do. It would, in fact, really, and what that would be the same thing as, that would be the same thing as a to the 4th, c to the 5th over b to the 5th, which is not what we want, right? So we have to, if all of that's in the denominator, then I need parentheses around everything that's in the denominator, okay? Same thing for the numerator. The only reason that we don't have a parentheses around the a to the 4th is because it's the only thing in the numerator, okay? Okay, so be careful with that. Let me do this. Let's go ahead and look and see what the answer key answer looks like here. Okay, so it looks like she's allowing that, but notice that we do have options for parentheses down here. I'm just telling you, you would be safest to have the parentheses. Okay, do you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, this one's kind of the same story, just more steps, right? Okay, what are we working on? What are we working on? Okay. All right. Number 12, what's the first step here? Alex? Move everything up top, okay? So I'm writing m to the -4th, what? Into the 3rd, okay? So parentheses 2m squared into the -3rd. this might be what's costing you. It's not that you don't know the steps, but look really carefully. Is that a 3 there? Now, I think you were maybe, oh, you're saying that that needs to be to the negative third. Okay, good. So you spotted a mistake there. So we're on to this one. Okay, minus, we got into the eighth, p to the negative second, m to the what? Negative fourth. Okay. Now what are we doing? Distributing. Okay. So what's the first thing that I should have in here? Do you know what number exists out here? 1. So that's what I want to look at first. So what am I multiplying 2 by? 1. Okay, so I have a 2. Okay, what about my m's? What do I write for m? M to the what? Negative second, because negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. What about in? Into the what? Negative fifth. Good. Okay. Minus, right? Because 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. What about my m's? M to the negative eighth. What about in? Into the negative fifth? Into the positive fifth. And p to the negative second. Okay? Now let's look and see. All right. On my left set here, what stays on top? 2. What comes down to the bottom?
Negative 2 and negative 5.
M to the second, into the fifth. Why positive 2 and positive 5? Right, because it moved across the division bar, the sign of the exponents became opposite to what they were. And since they were negative before, they're positive now. All right? Okay, what's next? Go ahead. Negative. Into the, okay, in on top. Okay, into the fifth is what I think that you mean there, right? Okay, now what? Okay, so division bar, right? Okay, and on the bottom I have what? M to the eighth and P to the second. Okay, and make sure you include all the parts, because it's easy enough. I mean, you could go through all the steps correctly and still get this wrong if you're not selecting everything. Okay, so we should have 2 over m squared into the fifth. Okay, so we should have option number 1 here. Okay, and we want minus into the fifth over m to the eighth p squared. So we want option 1 and option 5, right? Okay, we've got to select them both. We can't select anything extra. We can't select anything less if we want points there. $13, same kind of story, right? What would I do first? Do what? Baker? Bring what to the top? Okay. So I'm writing what? 8? 8r to the negative fourth. Okay, what's next? Okay. Now, why s to the fifth? Right, because it moved across the division bar. What happens to the exponents? It changes signs, right? Okay, so you've got 8r to the negative fourth, s to the fifth. Okay, somebody else. Wiseman, what's next? You have to do something. Okay, could I do what? Sanchez, what can I do with this? We've moved s up. What happens next? What do you think? Not sure. Okay, that's fine. Okay, Derike, what do you think? So write down the rest of the question, right? Okay. So I'm going to write what? Minus. Okay. All right. Does anybody notice anything there about those two things? What are they? They're what? The r's to the negative fourth and the s's to the. So are they the same on both? Okay. Can they cancel out? I wouldn't say that they could cancel out. What would we call these two things? Like terms. Great. Why are they like terms? Okay, they have the same exponents, a little bit more than that though. What? Okay, what do we call the r and the s? Variables. They have the same variables to the same exponents. Otherwise, we couldn't combine them, right? Okay, so Grayson, how do I combine these? Add? Okay, tell me how to do that. Add s to the fifth on both sides. Okay, so we're identifying that we might not quite understand. Okay, so we only, like let's say we had s to the fifth times s to the fifth. That would become what? S to the 10th, right? So we only change the exponents when I'm either multiplying these two things or dividing these two things. Okay? And that would be 1. Okay? Are we multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting here? We're subtracting. So we're not multiplying or dividing. So do I change the variables and their exponents whenever I'm adding and subtracting? Wyatt? No. Okay? What do I change? Cooper, what do I change? Not the exponents. What? Kato? Not sure. Okay. Let's think of it this way. So these variables, okay, let's think of them in like a real world term. Let's refer to them, let's think of like fruits, avocados and oranges and coconuts and those types of things. Okay? This would be like saying I have 8 coconuts minus 5 coconuts. Okay? So what do I do? If I have 8 coconuts minus 5 coconuts, how many coconuts do I have? I have 3 coconuts. Okay, the variables represent something as a whole. Okay? So I don't need to change their exponents. I just need to change how many of that set that I have. Is that clear? Okay? So in light of that, Grayson, what do I do here then? 8 minus 5, perfect. What is 8 minus 5? 3. Okay, so I've got 3 what? Brianna? Are we engaged? Are we paying attention? We got pencil, we're going to paper out, right? We're taking notes because we want to be successful on our test, right? Okay? The only way we can do that is if we're applying ourselves. Okay? So we got 3. Okay, 3 what? Okay, we've got an R. What kind of R do we have? A positive? We're not quite ready for that yet. Just as it is, okay? Negative what? Negative 4. And what else? What kind of S's do we have? Okay, to the positive 5th. Okay? And that would be a reasonable answer, but we might want to take it a step further because do we like negative exponents? No, we don't really like negative exponents. Okay? Kata, what can we do here? Bring what down? Okay, bring r to the negative 4th down. So what stays on top then? 3s to the 5th, and what drops down to the bottom? And what is it whenever I write it down here? Is it still to the negative 4th? Why? Why is it positive now? It crossed the division bar, so the sign of the exponent changed, right? So let's see what our possible answers are on this, just to see if we have, okay? So we've got 3s to the 5th over r to the 4th, 3 times s to the 5th over r to the 4th. We could put that in parentheses, right? But here we want positive exponents on a question like this, okay? So far we want to keep all our exponents positive, okay? Class, how do we want our exponents? How do we get positive exponents out of negative exponents? Okay, so we got a couple of different answers here. Move it across the division bar. Could that mean taking it up from the bottom? Could that moving it from the top to the bottom? Okay, all right. All right. So to join the school swim team, swimmers must be able to swim at least 500 yards. That's an important part. I made special emphasis. What are the two most important words that I've read so far? At least. What does that imply? What type of question is this going to be? What do we call those greater than, equal to, less than? What do we call it? What's the mathematical term for those things? Not probability. Does kind of end with the E. Inequality. Inequality, meaning things that aren't. Did you say that? I'm terrible. I don't always hear what I'm looking for, okay? All right, so we have an inequality, okay? We want to let N represent the number of yards a swimmer can swim without stopping, okay? So I'm just going to write the letter N up here. What do we know that we need to have? N has to be what? Has to be yards, okay? Okay, let's just talk about a swimmer. Okay, Zach, if we're talking about you and you want to be on the swim team, you have to be able to do what? Okay, what does that mean? At least 500 yards. So if you're the N, right? N is what you have to accomplish. Okay? Is that less than 500 yards? Greater than or equal to. So we've got 500 over here in terms of what you need to accomplish. And you said or equal to. How do I denote equal to? Slash or a kind of a bar like that? Okay. So how do I make sure that you said the N has to be greater than or equal to 500? How do I represent that greater than? Hold on a sec. Hello? Uh-huh. We're doing all right. Yeah, I've got Emily. No. Okay. Okay. All right, thanks, Mike. Okay. All right, so we're talking about inequalities. I just want to know that we know when we're writing these things up, okay, how do I write greater than? It should point towards the 500, right? Okay, so, there's a couple of different ways to kind of like mentally kind of grasp that, all right? You ever like remember in elementary school, they probably taught it as like kind of like the alligator. What's the alligator want to eat? It wants to eat the biggest thing, right? I also think of it in terms of kind of like an arrow, right? Without the stem off of it. And inequalities are kind of like bullies. They always want to point and poke and laugh at the little guy, right? So we're always going to point at the thing that's supposed to be smaller, okay? Eat the big thing, point at the little thing. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so let's see what we're supposed to have here. It doesn't look like, well, that's what we should have. N is greater than or equal to 500. Okay. All right, 14, write an inequality describing which values of n will result in a swimmer making a team, which really kind of seems like the same thing. Okay. I think this is just a description. I think this is the answer. Yeah. N greater than equal to 500. Okay. All right. 14b, graph the inequality on your paper. Choose all parts of the correct description. What should I do first if I want to graph this? Do what? I want to graph n is greater than or equal to 500. How do I do that? Make a what? Number line. Let's start. Okay, well let's use the words number line. Okay, number line. Okay, 500 is a pretty big number. Should I make my scale ones? No. Okay, 100s. So does 0 have to be in the middle? No. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Okay, I can probably go 6, 7, 8, 9, that type of thing. Okay, so what should I do now? Closed point or what? Closed circle. Okay, why is it closed? The equal to part, right? Now, if n is greater than or equal to 500, okay, which direction does the arrow go? To the right, because it is everything greater than 500. So as long as my variable is on the left, it will always point in the direction that the arrow needs to go. The arrow will always go in the same direction as the inequality. Does that make sense? Okay. So close point at 500, shaded to the right of the point. Okay, so we want those middle two boxes checked. Okay? Are we clear? All right. (15) Tell whether 112 is a solution to the system. Derike, how can I check that? Plug in 0. Find 0. No, we're not looking for the x and y intercepts. Cooper? Okay. So am I going to do that on just one of these or both of these? Both of them. All right, so let's start with this. What do I plug in here? 12. What do I plug in here? Okay. Is 12 greater than or equal to 1? Or, sorry, 2 times 1?
Yes.
Is 12 greater than 2?
Yes.
Okay, so that works. Okay, down here I want, is 12 less than 1 plus 2? Okay. Is 12 less than 1 plus 2? No. Okay, but I'm going to show my math. And because it's not a solution to both of them, it's not a solution to the system. Okay, a system is more than one equation or more than one equality. Okay? So it doesn't matter that it fits the first one. If it doesn't fit all of them, it doesn't fit. Okay? 16, simplify the expression below, select all parts. What do I need to look for? This kind of goes back to a similar question. What? Like terms. How do I identify like terms? Variables and their exponents. Okay? So, Grayson, is there a like term to 3x squared y? Okay, what is the like term with 3x squared y? Perfect. Okay? What do I get with 3x squared y and 6x squared y? Am I adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Adding. Okay? No. Okay? Remember, this kind of goes back, is because we're not multiplying or dividing, the exponents stay the same. So this should just be 9x squared y, correct? Okay? All right. Sanchez, are there any other like terms up here? Okay, the x to the 3. Okay? Can you be more specific for me? So this one, is this just an x cubed, or is it a negative x cubed? Okay? Be the equivalent to negative 1x cubed. Does it have a like term? It doesn't. What about negative 8x cubed? Are, are they both x cubes? Okay, so it's the same variable to the same exponent, correct? They're both x's, and they're both to the third, right? So these are like terms. Okay, is this 8 or negative 8? So negative 8 and negative 1 makes what? Okay, negative 9, what? X to the third. Okay? So as I look through here, we want to find the correct boxes. We want 9x squared y, and we want negative 9x cubed. So we need option 6 and option 2. Does that make sense? We understand what we need there? Okay. (17) Find the degrees of the monomial. Find the degrees of the monomial. There's not a lot of math to do here. Okay, so what Jacob is saying is he's looking at 2, 5, and 6. What are 2, 5, and 6? Exponents. All right, so what did you write for your answer on this? 2, 5, and 6? No, what did you write? Negative 3? The degree of a monomial is just one number. It's 6. How do you know it's 6? Right, it's the largest exponent. The largest exponent is the degree. So just 6. Oh, 11. Okay. Why do we do that? Why don't we add 2? Because it's part of a number, all right? And negative 3 squared, which is really, in this case, is negative 9 because it's not in parentheses. Okay? So because that can be simplified to negative 9, m to the 5th into the 6th, okay, the degree, we add the 5 and the 6 of our variables, and we get 11. Okay? What time are you guys out of here? 38. Okay? All right. So let's see. We need to pick up with number 18 tomorrow. Okay, do you guys know what's due? 61 homework, 63 notes, and we will finish 18, 19. We'll finish the rest of these, okay, with the time that we have. All right, we'll go ahead and stop there for today.